The judge lifted the wooden gavel. "If there are no more witnesses," he said, his voice calm but firm, "this court will proceed with its decision." The sound of those words struck Maya Brooks harder than any blow she had ever received. She stood alone behind the defense table. Her hands rested against the wooden rail, trembling just enough for her to notice. She quickly folded them together. Across the courtroom, the prosecutor wore a satisfied smile. The gallery was full. Some people had come because they wanted justice. Many had come simply to watch a woman lose everything. The judge looked directly at Maya. "Ms. Brooks, this is your final opportunity. Is there anyone prepared to testify on your behalf?" Maya slowly turned toward the rows of seats. She searched every face. No family, no friends, no lawyer, nobody. A painful lump formed in her throat. She forced herself to answer, "No, Your Honor." The judge lowered his eyes to the papers before him. "I understand." He reached for the document that would decide the rest of her life. Maya closed her eyes. "So this is how it ends?" she whispered. Just then, bang! The courtroom doors burst open with a loud crash that echoed through the room. Everyone jumped. Several people turned so quickly their chairs scraped across the floor. Heavy footsteps entered the courtroom. Slow, calm, certain. Nobody could see who had entered because people standing near the back blocked the view. The footsteps continued, then stopped. A deep voice broke the silence. "Your Honor, please delay your decision." Every person in the courtroom froze. The judge slowly raised his head. The prosecutor's confident smile disappeared. Maya turned around, trying to see the stranger. Before anyone could discover who had spoken, let's pause for one quick moment. If you enjoy emotional stories filled with shocking twists, justice, hope, and unforgettable endings, please subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. It helps us bring you more powerful stories every week. Now, let's go back to where this unbelievable story truly began. 3 weeks earlier, the alarm clock buzzed at 5 in the morning. Maya reached across the small table beside her bed and turned it off before it could wake her neighbors. She sat quietly for a moment. The apartment was almost empty. The old sofa had a tear along one arm. The refrigerator hummed loudly, even though there was almost nothing inside. She opened it. A bottle of water, half a carton of milk, 2 eggs. She smiled to herself. "I'll make these last." On the wall hung a framed picture of her mother. Every morning Maya spoke to it. "Good morning, Mama." She smiled through tired eyes. "I'll keep trying." She dressed in her housekeeping uniform and walked toward the bus stop with her lunch bag. As she waited, 2 women standing nearby looked in her direction. One whispered something. The other laughed. Neither bothered to lower her voice. She'd be pretty if she lost about 200 pounds. The women laughed together. Maya looked down at the sidewalk. Those words are not new. She had heard them since high school. They still hurt every single time. The city bus arrived. An elderly woman carrying several shopping bags struggled to climb the steps. Without thinking, Maya hurried forward. "Here, let me help you." "Oh, thank you, dear." Maya carried the bags onto the bus. The elderly woman smiled warmly. "Young lady, your mother raised you well." Maya felt tears try to rise. "Thank you." She quietly found a seat near the back. 40 minutes later, she stepped off the bus in front of the Grand Crescent Hotel. The building looked beautiful under the morning sun. Luxury cars lined the entrance. Guests walked across polished marble floors while hotel workers hurried from one task to another. Maya entered through the employee entrance. Her closest friend at work, Denise Carter, waved the moment she saw her. "There you are." "Morning." Denise looked closely at her. "You skipped dinner again." Maya laughed softly. "What makes you think that?" "Because your smile gets smaller every time you don't eat." "I'm fine." "No," Denise replied gently. "You're surviving." Before Maya could answer, their supervisor walked into the room. Victor Lane carried a clipboard under one arm. He rarely smiled. "Brooks." "Yes, sir." "The East Ballroom still hasn't been cleaned after last night's business event." "I'll take care of it. It needs to be perfect. Important people use that room." "I understand." Victor walked away without another word. Denise shook her head. "I wish he'd speak to you with some respect." Maya smiled. "Maybe he's having a bad day." Denise laughed. "I've worked here 6 years." According to him, every day is a bad day. The 2 women shared a quiet laugh before Maya pushed her cleaning cart toward the ballroom. She had no idea that one simple assignment would place her in the middle of a nightmare that would soon make headlines across the entire city. Maya pushed open the large doors to the East Ballroom and stopped for a moment. The room looked like it had hosted a celebration that never wanted to end. Crystal glasses covered several tables. Expensive decorations lay scattered across the floor. Half-eaten meals filled silver trays. The rich guests had gone home hours ago, leaving others to clean up the mess. Maya smiled to herself. Well, let's get to work. She rolled up her sleeves and began. She gathered broken glasses first. Then she wiped every table until it shined. After nearly an hour, she noticed something under the table closest to the stage. A black leather wallet. She picked it up and looked around. No one was there. When she opened it, her eyes widened. The wallet was filled with cash. There were several credit cards, a driver's license, and what looked like an important business card. She quietly closed it again. Someone must be worried. Without another thought, she walked straight to the hotel security office. The security manager looked surprised. You found this? Yes. He opened it and counted the money. His eyebrows lifted. Nothing is missing. It wasn't mine. He looked at Maya for a few seconds. You know, many people wouldn't have returned this. My mother always said that if it doesn't belong to you, don't carry it home. The manager smiled. I wish more people thought like that. As Maya walked away, two hotel workers standing nearby watched her. One shook his head. She's always trying to be the good person. The other laughed. Being honest doesn't pay the rent. Maya heard them. She kept walking anyway. By lunchtime, her stomach was growling. She bought the cheapest sandwich from a food cart outside the hotel. Just before taking her first bite, she noticed an elderly homeless man sitting on a bench nearby. His hand shook as he looked at people passing by. No one stopped. No one even looked at him. Maya walked over. Sir. The old man slowly raised his head. Yes, ma'am. Would you like this? She held out the sandwich. The man's eyes became wet. You giving this to me? She nodded. You need it more than I do. The man accepted it with shaking hands. I've been praying all morning. Maya smiled. Then I guess God answered. She walked away with nothing to eat, but somehow her heart felt lighter than before. Back inside the hotel, Denise noticed immediately. Don't tell me. Maya smiled. You already know. You gave your lunch away again. He was hungry. Maya, you are hungry too. I'll eat tonight. Denise sighed. I worry about you. I'll be okay. Late that afternoon, Victor walked into the housekeeping room, carrying another assignment sheet. Brooks. Yes, sir. The chairman of Han Global Holdings is arriving tonight. Several workers looked up. Everyone had heard of the company. It was one of the biggest international corporations in the world. Victor continued. The executive floor must be spotless. I'll handle it. And don't make mistakes. I won't. As Maya pushed her cart toward the executive floor, she noticed several men in dark suits walking through the hotel lobby. They were not smiling. Each wore a small earpiece. Their eyes searched every corner of the building. Guests stepped aside without being asked. Even the hotel manager greeted them with unusual respect. Denise leaned closer and whispered, Those men don't look like ordinary security guards. Maya quietly nodded. They're protecting someone important. Neither woman knew who that person was. Hours passed. By evening, heavy clouds covered the sky. Rain began falling so hard that people rushed inside the hotel entrance. When Maya finally finished her shift, the buses had stopped running because several streets were flooded. She looked at the dark sky. I guess I'm walking. Denise frowned. Are you sure? I don't have enough money for a taxi. I can lend you some. Maya smiled warmly. You've helped me enough already. I don't mind. I know. Maya gently squeezed Denise's hand. But I'll be fine. She pulled up the hood of her old raincoat and stepped into the storm. Rain poured down the empty streets. Thunder rolled above the city. Most people had already found shelter. The sidewalks were nearly empty. Maya hugged herself to stay warm as she walked. Several blocks later, she noticed something unusual. A black luxury SUV sat crooked near the curb. Its headlights were still on. One of the doors hung open. The engine continued running. She slowed her steps. That's strange. She looked around. No driver. No passengers. Only rain. She started walking again. Then she heard it. A painful groan. Very soft. Almost swallowed by the storm. She stopped. The sound came again. This time she knew exactly where it came from. A narrow alley beside an old warehouse. Her heart began beating faster. Every instinct told her to keep walking. This could be dangerous, she whispered. She took 2 steps away. Then the groan came again. It sounded weaker this time. Maya closed her eyes. She remembered something her mother used to say. If you can help someone safely, don't let fear stop you from being kind. She slowly turned back. The alley was dark. Rainwater rushed along the pavement. She walked carefully toward the sound. At first she saw nothing. Then lightning flashed across the sky. For a brief second, the alley became bright. A man lay on the ground beside a dumpster. His white dress shirt was stained with blood. One hand pressed against his side. The other reached weakly toward her before falling back onto the wet pavement. Maya gasped. Oh my goodness. The stranger struggled to open his eyes. His lips moved. Please. Then his head dropped, and he stopped moving. Maya looked behind her. The street remained completely empty. She was alone, standing in the rain, beside a badly wounded stranger. And she had no idea that the choice she made over the next few seconds would change both of their lives forever. Maya's heart pounded so hard that she could hear it over the rain. She looked up and down the empty street one more time. There was still no one. She knelt beside the injured man, careful not to touch the blood covering his shirt. Sir, can you hear me? The man did not answer. His breathing was slow and uneven. Maya reached in her pocket, pulled out her phone, and quickly dialed emergency services. Emergency operator. What is your location? I found a man. He's been hurt. He's bleeding badly. Is he awake? Not really. Stay with him. Help is on the way. Maya removed her raincoat and folded it against the man's side. Try to slow the bleeding without pressing too hard. Please don't leave me, she whispered. Just keep breathing. A few seconds later, the man's eyes opened slightly. He looked at Maya, but his vision seemed cloudy. You, don't try to talk. They're coming. Who is coming? His lips moved again, but no words came out. Then he lost consciousness once more. Maya looked toward the street, hoping to hear sirens. Instead, she heard engines. Several black SUVs turned the corner at high speed. Their tires splashed through the flooded road before stopping in front of the alley. The doors flew open. More than a dozen men in black suits rushed out. Every one of them looked alert. One of them spotted Maya. There! Within seconds, they surrounded her. One man stepped forward. He looked to be in his 50s, with silver hair and sharp eyes. His attention moved from Maya to the injured stranger. The man's face changed instantly. Boss! He dropped to one knee beside the wounded man. Another man spoke into a radio. Secure the area, now! Several guards spread through the alley. Others searched nearby buildings. Maya slowly stood. I found him here. The silver-haired man looked at her. You didn't do this? No, I called for help. He noticed her raincoat pressed against the wound. You tried to stop the bleeding. I couldn't just leave him. For the first time, the man's serious face softened. He gave a small nod. Thank you. An ambulance arrived moments later. Paramedics carefully lifted the injured man onto a stretcher. Before they loaded him inside, his hand moved slightly. His fingers wrapped around Maya's wrist. His eyes opened for only a moment. He looked at her as though trying to remember her face. Then he whispered one weak sentence. Don't forget. His hand slipped away. The ambulance doors closed. It sped into the rainy night. The black SUVs followed close behind. The silver-haired man remained behind for one brief moment. He reached into his pocket and offered Maya a business card. If anyone asked questions, call this number. Maya looked at the card. There was no name, only a phone number. She looked up again. Who was he? The man paused. You helped someone very important. Before Maya could ask another question, he walked away and entered the final SUV. Within seconds, every vehicle disappeared into the rain. The alley became silent again. Maya stood there alone, soaked from head to toe. She looked down at the blood that had stained her hands. I hope he lives. The next morning she arrived at work feeling exhausted. Denise immediately noticed. Maya, you look terrible. I barely slept. What happened? Maya quietly told her everything. Denise listened without interrupting. When Maya finished, Denise shook her head. You helped a bleeding stranger in an empty alley during a storm? I couldn't leave him. What if whoever attacked him had still been nearby? I thought about that. And you still stayed? Maya smiled gently. I kept thinking, what if it had been my brother lying there? Or yours? Denise sighed. Your heart is too big. Before Maya could answer, Victor walked into the room. Brooks. Yes, sir. Office. Now. Maya followed him. Victor closed the door behind them. There was a complaint. A complaint. One of our VIP guests claims he lost an expensive watch after the business event. I never saw a watch. He insists housekeeping is responsible. Maya looked directly at him. I didn't take anything. Victor folded his arms. I didn't say you did. But you're thinking it. Victor said nothing. After a long silence, he spoke again. The investigation starts today. Every employee who worked that event will be questioned. Maya nodded. I understand. As she walked back toward the housekeeping room, she felt an uneasy weight settle in her chest. First, the wounded stranger. Now a missing watch. Something about the past few days no longer felt like a series of accidents. She just didn't know why. Meanwhile, across the city, inside a private hospital guarded by armed security, the wounded man slowly opened his eyes. Machines beeped quietly around him. The silver-haired man stepped closer. Boss, you're awake. The patient looked toward him. The woman, she is safe. Did you find her name? Yes. What is it? The silver-haired man answered softly. Maya Brooks. The injured man closed his eyes for a brief moment. Make sure no harm comes to her. Yes, boss. Neither of them knew that before another week had passed, Maya Brooks would be arrested for murder, and a simple act of kindness that had brought them together would become the only thread connecting her to the truth. The next 3 days passed without a single phone call. Maya almost convinced herself that the strange night in the alley was behind her. She returned to her routine. Wake up before sunrise. Ride the crowded bus. Clean rooms that cost more for one night than she earned in a month. Smile when guests ignored her. Go home. Repeat. But something had changed. She noticed unfamiliar faces around the hotel. Men dressed in dark suits stood across the street for hours. Black vehicles appeared outside the building almost every afternoon before quietly driving away. Once, she thought she saw one of those men looking in her direction. When their eyes met, he simply nodded before walking away. Maya. Denise's voice pulled her back. You've been distracted all morning. I know. You keep looking out the window. Maya forced a smile. I guess I'm just tired. Denise lowered her voice. Is this about the man you saved? I don't know. You think someone is watching you? Maya looked outside again. I honestly can't tell. Before Denise could answer, Victor entered the housekeeping room carrying another clipboard. Everyone who worked the business event last Friday needs to report to the conference room. The room suddenly became quiet. Several employees exchanged nervous looks. One of them whispered, It's about the missing watch. Victor looked around the room. The guest has increased his complaint. Another employee raised his hand. Did they find anything? Victor shook his head. No. He looked directly at Maya. But the investigation is expanding. Minutes later, every employee sat inside the conference room. 2 detectives stood at the front. One introduced himself. My name is Detective Harris. His partner remained silent, watching everyone carefully. Detective Harris spoke again. A valuable watch disappeared during last week's business event. He placed a photograph on the table. The watch looked expensive enough to buy a small house. We simply want the truth. One by one, employees answer questions. Where were you? What time did you leave? Did you enter the ballroom after midnight? When Maya's turn came, Detective Harris looked through his notes. Ms. Brooks. Yes. You cleaned the ballroom alone? Yes. You found a wallet. I returned it. We confirmed that. He leaned forward. Did you find anything else? No. You were certain? Yes. He studied her face for several seconds. She refused to look away. Finally, he closed his notebook. Thank you. The questioning ended. As employees walked out, Denise caught up with Maya. That detective made me nervous. Me too. I thought he was trying to trap you. Maya nodded slowly. So did I. The following evening, Maya's shift ended later than usual. She was locking her cleaning cart when the hotel manager hurried toward her. Ms. Brooks. Yes. There's a gentleman asking for you. For me. He said it's important. Maya frowned. I don't know anyone who would come here. The manager pointed toward the lobby. A man in a neat gray suit stood near the entrance. He looked to be around 60 years old. His silver hair was neatly combed. The moment he saw Maya, he smiled politely. Ms. Brooks. Yes. My name is Mr. Choi. His voice sounded familiar. Then Maya remembered. He was the silver-haired man from the rainy night. Her eyes widened. You? He nodded. May we speak for a moment? They walked to a quiet corner of the lobby. Before Maya could ask anything, Mr. Choi bowed his head slightly. The man whose life you saved is alive. Relief spread across Maya's face. Oh, thank God. He asked me to thank you. I'm just happy he survived. Mr. Choi reached into his jacket and removed a white envelope. Please accept this. Maya looked inside. Her eyes grew wide. It was filled with money. Far more money than she had ever held in her hands. She quickly closed the envelope and handed it back. I can't take this. Mr. Choi looked surprised. Our boss insists. I didn't help him for money. It is only a gift. Maya gently shook her head. No, you may never have another chance like this. I know. You could pay your rent. I know. You could buy food. I know. Then why refuse? Maya smiled softly. My mother taught me something before she died. Mr. Choi waited. She said kindness stops being kindness the moment you put a price on it. For the first time, Mr. Choi seemed unable to speak. He slowly placed the envelope back into his jacket. I understand. He reached into another pocket and handed Maya a small card. This one has my name. She looked down. Daniel Choi. Below was a phone number. If you're ever in danger, he said quietly, call me. Day or night. Maya laughed gently. I don't think I'll ever need that. Mr. Choi's expression became serious. I hope you're right. He turned and walked toward the waiting black sedan outside. Maya watched the car disappear into traffic. She slipped the card into her purse, never imagining how soon she would need it. 2 mornings later, she arrived at work to find police cars parked outside the hotel. Yellow tape surrounded part of the entrance. Employees gathered in small groups, whispering. Denise hurried over. Maya, what happened? Denise looked pale. One of the businessmen from that event. She struggled to finish the sentence. They found him dead. Maya felt the blood drain from her face. What? They're saying he was murdered. Before Maya could ask another question, 2 detectives stepped through the hotel doors. Detective Harris looked directly at her. Ms. Maya Brooks? Yes. We need you to come with us. What for? His face showed no emotion. You are being questioned in connection with the murder of Mr. Richard Lawson. Every conversation inside the lobby stopped. Dozens of eyes turned toward Maya. She stood frozen. Then Detective Harris spoke the words that shattered her world. You have the right to remain silent. Maya stared at Detective Harris as though she had heard the wrong name. Being questioned? Yes. There has to be some mistake. We'll discuss that at the station. Denise quickly stepped forward. Officer, Maya would never hurt anyone. Detective Harris remained calm. Ma'am, please step aside. No, I've worked with her for 6 years. She wouldn't even take money from a wallet filled with cash. We're not asking for opinions. I'm giving you facts. Maya gently touched Denise's arm. It's okay. No, it isn't. It will be. Maya looked back at Detective Harris. I'll come with you. As she walked through the hotel lobby, dozens of people watched in silence. Some looked shocked. Others looked pleased. Victor stood near the front desk with his arms folded. He never said a single word. Outside, reporters had already gathered. Cameras pointed toward her. Questions flew from every direction. Did you know the victim? Did you kill Richard Lawson? Were you stealing from him? Why were you at the crime scene? Police officers hurried Maya into the patrol car before she could answer. She looked out the window as the hotel disappeared behind her. Her life was falling apart faster than she could understand. At the police station, Detective Harris placed a thick file on the table. Ms. Brooks, this interview is being recorded. I understand. Would you like a lawyer? Maya lowered her eyes. I can't afford one. You still have the right to wait until one is appointed. She thought for a moment. How long would that take? I can't say. Maya took a slow breath. I've done nothing wrong. Then tell us everything. For nearly 2 hours, she answered every question. She explained how she cleaned the ballroom, how she returned the wallet, how she found the wounded stranger in the alley, how she walked home after work. Detective Harris listened without interrupting. His partner occasionally wrote notes. Finally, Harris opened another folder. We recovered security video. Maya nodded. Okay. It shows you entering the ballroom after everyone else had left. Yes. It also shows you leaving almost 40 minutes later. I had to clean the room. We know. He slid another photograph across the table. Maya's hands began to shake. It showed the murdered businessman, Richard Lawson. He had attended the same business event. I've never spoken to him. Detective Harris looked directly into her eyes. Your fingerprints were found on his watch. Maya's mouth slowly fell open. That's impossible. You told us you never touched it. I didn't. Then explain the fingerprints. I can't. The room became silent. For the first time since arriving, fear settled deep inside Maya's heart. Someone had placed her fingerprints on evidence. But how? Detective Harris broke the silence. Would you like to change your statement? No. You still claim you're innocent? I don't claim it. She lifted her head. I am innocent. Late that evening, Maya was taken to a holding cell. The heavy metal door closed behind her with a loud bang. She sat alone on the narrow bed. The room was cold. She wrapped her arms around herself. For the first time in years, she cried. Not because she was afraid of prison. Not because strangers believed she was guilty. She cried because she knew the truth. And somehow, the truth was losing. The next morning, Denise arrived at the station carrying a small bag. The officer searched it before allowing her inside the visiting room. The moment Maya entered, Denise stood and hugged her. I've been so worried. I'm glad to see you. Denise placed fruit, bottled water, and clean clothes on the table. I brought what I could. You didn't have to. Yes, I did. Maya smiled through tired eyes. Thank you. Denise reached into her purse. I also found this. She placed a business card on the table. Maya looked down. Daniel Choi. She had completely forgotten about it. The man from the hotel gave you this. I know. Are you going to call him? Maya slowly shook her head. No. Maya. He said to call if you were ever in danger. I barely know him. He might know someone who can help. I can't drag strangers into my problems. Denise leaned forward. They're not strangers anymore. Maya looked at the card for several long seconds. Finally, she slid it back across the table. No. If I'm going to clear my name. She took a deep breath. It has to be with the truth. Denise sighed. I just don't want you fighting this alone. Maya reached across the table and squeezed her friend's hand. I won't always be alone. At that exact moment, miles away inside a private office overlooking the city, Daniel Choi entered quietly. A tall Korean man stood beside the window, looking over the skyline. He had fully recovered from his injuries. Daniel spoke softly. Boss. The man turned. What is it? We found Maya Brooks. A small smile appeared. Good. Daniel's expression quickly changed. There's another matter. The smile disappeared. What happened? Daniel placed a newspaper on the desk. The front page showed Maya being led into a police car. The headline covered nearly half the page. Hotel housekeeper arrested for businessman's murder. The Korean man's eyes became cold. He picked up the newspaper without saying a word. After reading only the first few lines, he looked at Daniel. Who is responsible for this investigation? Detective Harris. And the evidence? It appears strong. The man slowly folded the newspaper. I don't believe she did it. Neither do I. He looked back toward the window. Find out who is trying to bury an innocent woman. Daniel nodded. It will be done. The Korean man spoke one final sentence before Daniel left the office. No matter how powerful they are, bring me the truth. Daniel Choi left the office without another word. Within minutes, phones began ringing across the city. Private investigators were called. Security experts received new assignments. Every person who had attended the business event was quietly placed under investigation. Inside the office, the Korean businessman remained standing by the window. His eyes rested on a newspaper lying across his desk. Maya Brooks. He quietly repeated her name. He could still remember the rain, the cold pavement, the pain from a knife wound, and one frightened woman who had every reason to walk away, but chose to save a stranger instead. No, he said softly. That woman is not a killer. Meanwhile, Maya's first night in jail felt longer than any night she had ever lived. She barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw reporters shouting her name. She saw the disappointed faces of people at the hotel. She heard the prosecutor calling her a murderer. When morning finally came, a correctional officer opened her cell. Ms. Brooks. Yes. You have a visitor. Maya's heart lifted for a moment. Maybe Denise had returned. Instead, an older woman wearing a navy blue suit entered the visiting room. She smiled kindly. My name is Evelyn Grant. Maya looked confused. I'm sorry. Have we met? No. Then why are you here? I'm a public defender. Maya understood immediately. The court appointed you. Yes. Evelyn sat down across from her. I've spent all morning reading your case. And Evelyn paused before answering. I won't lie to you. Maya felt her stomach tighten. The evidence doesn't look good. Maya lowered her eyes. I know. There is security footage placing you near the victim. I cleaned the ballroom. I know. There's fingerprint evidence. I never touched that watch. The prosecution also says the victim's blood was found on your coat. Maya quickly looked up. My raincoat? Yes. Of course it was. Evelyn frowned. What do you mean? I used that coat to help the wounded man in the alley. Evelyn leaned forward. What wounded man? For the next 20 minutes, Maya explained everything from the rainy night. She described finding the stranger, calling for help, the black SUVs, the silver-haired man, the business card. She left nothing out. When she finished, Evelyn remained silent. Finally, she asked one question. Why didn't you tell the detectives all of this? I did. They believed you. They wrote it down, but they never investigated it. Evelyn slowly closed her notebook. This changes things. You believe me? I believe someone should have looked into your story. For the first time since her arrest, Maya felt a small spark of hope. Later that afternoon, Detective Harris entered the prosecutor's office carrying another file. The prosecutor, Martin Cole, looked up from his desk. Any problems? Harris placed the file on the table. There are a few things that don't fit. Cole frowned, such as, the defendant reported helping an injured man the same night. So, we haven't identified him. Cole shrugged. Then he isn't important. Harris wasn't convinced. The blood on her coat may not belong to Richard Lawson. Cole's face hardened. The lab report, we're still waiting. Cole stood up and walked toward the window. Harris. Yes. This case has attracted national attention. I know. We have fingerprints. We do. We have video. Yes. We have motive. Harris hesitated. Do we? Cole turned slowly. The victim carried large amounts of cash, but none was missing. Cole's voice became firm. I'm telling you not to lose focus. Harris said nothing. He picked up the file and quietly left the office. As soon as the door closed, Cole reached for his phone. He dialed a number from memory. The person answered almost immediately. Everything is under control, Cole said. There was a long pause. No, the detective is beginning to ask questions. Another pause. I'll handle him. He ended the call and stared out the window. Someone was hiding the truth. And Martin Cole knew far more than he wanted anyone else to discover. That evening, Evelyn returned to see Maya. I have good news. Maya sat up. What is it? I requested every piece of evidence from the prosecution. They have to give it to you. They have to give it to us. And then, we're going through every page. Maya smiled faintly. Thank you. Evelyn reached across the table. I've defended innocent people before. You have. Yes. And guilty people too. Maya looked down. Do you think I'll win? Evelyn answered honestly. I think we're fighting an uphill battle. Maya's smile faded. But, Evelyn continued, I've also learned something after 30 years in court. What? The truth has a strange way of leaving small footprints. I don't understand. People can hide a lie. She tapped the thick case file resting on the table. But they almost always forget one small detail. Maya nodded slowly. So we keep looking. We keep looking. As they stood to leave, Evelyn noticed something sticking out of Maya's property envelope. A business card? Maya looked at it. Daniel Choi. She had almost forgotten again. Evelyn read the name. Who's this? A man whose boss I helped. Can he confirm your story? I honestly don't know. Evelyn looked directly into Maya's eyes. At this point, we cannot afford to ignore anyone who might know the truth. For the first time since her arrest, Maya picked up the card with a different feeling. Maybe asking for help was not a sign of weakness. Maybe it was the only way to uncover the truth before it was too late. Maya turned the business card over several times. The white card suddenly felt much heavier than paper should. Evelyn watched her quietly. You still don't want to call him? Maya sighed. I've spent my whole life trying not to owe anyone. This isn't about owing someone. I don't even know who these people really are. Evelyn gave a small smile. You don't have to know everything about a person before asking for the truth. Maya looked down again. What if I drag him into danger? Evelyn shook her head. From everything you've told me, he already chose to be involved the moment you saved his life. Maya remained silent. Finally, she slid the card across the table. You call. Evelyn nodded. I will. An hour later, Evelyn sat alone inside her office. She picked up the phone and dialed the number on Daniel Choi's card. It rang only once. This is Daniel Choi. My name is Evelyn Grant. I'm the court-appointed attorney representing Maya Brooks. The room became silent. Then Daniel answered. How is she? Evelyn noticed the concern in his voice. She's frightened. Another pause. Is she hurt? No. Good. Evelyn took a deep breath. Mr. Choi, Maya told me your employer is the man whose life she saved. That is correct. I need someone to confirm her story. Daniel answered without hesitation. I'll arrange a meeting. When? As soon as possible. Who exactly is your employer? Daniel was quiet for several seconds. I'm afraid that conversation is better held in person. The call ended. Evelyn leaned back in her chair. Who exactly had Maya rescued? The following morning, Detective Harris walked into the evidence room, carrying 2 files. The forensic technician looked up. Morning, Detective. I need the final lab report. The technician handed him a sealed envelope. It came in an hour ago. Harris opened it immediately. His eyes moved quickly across the page. Then they stopped. He read the same paragraph twice. A deep frown crossed his face. He walked straight into Prosecutor Martin Cole's office without knocking. Cole looked up. You seem upset. Harris threw the report onto the desk. The blood on Maya Brooks' raincoat. What about it? It isn't Richard Lawson's. Cole stared at him. What? It belongs to another unidentified male. Cole slowly picked up the report. His expression became impossible to read. Are we certain? The lab confirmed it twice. Harris folded his arms. She told us she helped an injured stranger. Cole remained silent. We should investigate that lead. Cole carefully placed the report inside a drawer. No. Harris blinked. No. The unidentified blood changes nothing. It changes everything. We still have fingerprints, which can be planted. We have video, which doesn't show a murder. Cole stood. The case proceeds. Harris looked at him for a long moment. You're making a mistake. Cole's voice became cold. No, Detective. I'm making a decision. Harris quietly left the office. As soon as the door closed, Martin Cole locked it. He reached for his phone with trembling hands. The call connected immediately. There's a problem, he whispered. A voice answered from the other end. Cole listened. No, Harris won't let this go. Another pause. I understand. He slowly lowered the phone. His face had lost all color. Meanwhile, Daniel Choi arrived at Evelyn Grant's office exactly as promised. He wore a dark gray suit. His calm expression never changed. Evelyn welcomed him inside. Thank you for coming. The woman who saved my employer deserves every chance to clear her name. Evelyn studied him carefully. You speak very highly of her. Because she earned it. He reached into a leather briefcase and placed several photographs on the desk. Evelyn picked them up. The first showed Maya kneeling beside the wounded stranger in the rain. The second showed paramedics loading him into an ambulance. The third showed Maya's raincoat pressed against the man's wound. Evelyn looked up in surprise. Who took these? Our security team. You have cameras? They were following our employer that evening because his life had already been threatened. Evelyn's heart began to race. This proves Maya was telling the truth. Yes. She picked up another photograph. The injured man's face had been partly covered by an oxygen mask. I still don't know who he is. Daniel smiled politely. For now, that is best. Evelyn looked directly at him. Mr. Choi, if your employer testifies, Maya could be saved. Daniel became serious. My employer cannot appear in public without consequences. What kind of consequences? I'm not free to discuss that. Evelyn leaned forward. An innocent woman may spend the rest of her life in prison. Daniel nodded. I know. Then please. Daniel stood and closed his briefcase. I'll speak with him. That evening, Maya sat alone inside her cell reading the small Bible that Denise had brought her. She stopped when she heard footsteps. A correctional officer unlocked the door. You have another visitor. Maya followed him into the visiting room. Denise stood waiting with tears in her eyes. The moment Maya sat down, Denise smiled. I have news. What happened? Our church has been praying for you every night. Maya smiled softly. Tell everyone thank you. And Denise lowered her voice. A man came to the hotel asking questions about Richard Lawson. What man? No one knows. What did he look like? Tall. Korean. Very well dressed. Maya's heart skipped a beat. Did he say why he was there? Denise slowly shook her head. No, but after he left. She smiled for the first time in days. Victor looked terrified. For the first time since the nightmare began, Maya felt something she had almost forgotten. Hope. She didn't know who was searching for the truth. She didn't know why powerful people suddenly cared about her case. But somewhere outside those prison walls, someone was pulling on a thread, and the web of lies surrounding Richard Lawson's murder was beginning to unravel. The following morning, Evelyn Grant spread every document from the prosecution across the conference table inside her office. Photographs, witness statements, phone records, security reports. For 3 straight hours, she read every page without speaking. Something bothered her. She could not explain it yet. Then she noticed it. Richard Lawson's timeline did not match the security records. She picked up 2 reports and compared them side by side. According to one report, Lawson had left the ballroom shortly before 11 o'clock. Another report claimed Maya entered the ballroom almost 20 minutes later. Evelyn frowned. If he had already left, she stopped speaking. Then how could Maya have attacked him inside the ballroom? She immediately picked up her phone. Detective Harris, this is Evelyn Grant. I was expecting your call. I found something. So did I. When can we meet? 30 minutes. They met at a small coffee shop across from the courthouse. Detective Harris arrived carrying another thick folder. He looked more tired than Evelyn had ever seen him. I haven't been sleeping much, he admitted. I don't think your office likes the questions you're asking. Harris gave a weak smile. You're right about that. Evelyn placed the 2 reports in front of him. Look at the times. Harris studied them carefully. His expression changed. I missed this. So did everyone else. He leaned back in his chair. Lawson could not have been killed where the prosecution says he was. Exactly. Harris lowered his voice. There's something else. He opened his folder and removed a photograph. It showed Richard Lawson talking to another man after the business event. The second man's face had been partly hidden by the camera angle. Who is he? Evelyn asked. We're still trying to identify him. Why wasn't this turned over with the rest of the evidence? Harris looked away. It was removed from the official file. By who? He hesitated. I think Prosecutor Cole. Evelyn stared at him. That's evidence. I know. He hid it. I can't prove it. Evelyn folded her arms. Then we prove it. Across the city, Daniel Choi stood inside a private office waiting quietly. The door opened. The Korean businessman walked in. He looked healthier than he had after the attack, but the scar near his side reminded everyone how close he had come to death. Daniel handed him a report. Our investigators finished during the night. The man opened the file. Inside were bank records, phone records, and photographs. His face grew colder with every page. So Richard Lawson was planning to expose them. Yes, and they killed him before he could speak. Daniel nodded. We also confirmed that Maya was selected as the person to take the blame. The businessman slowly closed the file. They chose her because she was alone. Yes, no powerful family. Correct, no expensive lawyer. Daniel nodded again. They believed nobody would fight for her. Silence filled the office. Finally, the businessman spoke. They underestimated one thing. Daniel already knew the answer. They underestimated her kindness. The businessman looked toward the window. Prepare the car. Daniel frowned. Sir, it's time I stop hiding. Daniel looked concerned. If you appear publicly, I know the risk. There will be consequences. There already are. He turned to face Daniel. An innocent woman sits in a jail cell because she stopped to save my life. His voice remained calm, but his eyes carried quiet anger. I will not allow that. Back at the detention center, Maya sat reading when the guard called her name. Visitor. She followed him into the meeting room. This time, Evelyn was smiling. The smile alone made Maya's heart race. What happened? We're making progress. You found something? We found several things. Maya leaned forward. Please tell me. Evelyn explained the conflicting timelines. The hidden photograph, the blood report, the missing evidence. As she spoke, Maya felt hope returning little by little. So, people are finally listening. Some are, but we're still missing one piece. What piece? A witness. Maya lowered her eyes. I told you, I don't have one. Evelyn reached across the table. You may not know it yet, but I think someone is getting ready to step forward. Maya looked confused. What makes you think that? Evelyn smiled. Because someone has been quietly protecting you ever since the night of the storm. At that exact moment, several miles away, Prosecutor Martin Cole stood inside a private parking garage. A black luxury sedan rolled to a stop beside him. The rear window lowered just enough for someone inside to speak. You promised this case would already be finished. Cole swallowed hard. I ran into unexpected problems. The detective? Yes. And the lawyer. They're getting close. A brief silence followed. Then the voice inside the car became colder. If Maya Brooks walks free, you will answer for it. The window closed. The sedan disappeared into the darkness. Martin Cole stood frozen. For the first time since the conspiracy began, he realized he was no longer in control. And somewhere across the city, a man whose name the courtroom had never heard was putting on a black suit, preparing to walk into the most important trial of Maya Brooks' life. The courtroom filled long before the judge entered. Every seat was taken. Reporters lined the back wall with notebooks and cameras ready. Word had spread that new evidence might be presented. Nobody knew what that evidence was. Nobody expected what was about to happen. Maya walked into the courtroom wearing the same simple gray dress. She looked tired, but there was something different in her eyes. Hope. Very small. Very careful. But hope. Evelyn leaned closer. Whatever happens today, stay calm. I will. If I ask you not to speak, don't. Maya nodded. I trust you. Across the room, Prosecutor Martin Cole arranged his files. He looked confident, but his hands were not as steady as before. Detective Harris watched him from the prosecution table. Something no longer felt right. The judge entered. Everyone stood. After everyone was seated, the judge looked around the courtroom. Counsel, are both sides ready? We are. Your Honor, Cole answered. Evelyn stood. The defense is ready. Cole approached the jury. For weeks, we have heard one unbelievable story after another. The defendant wants this court to believe she is the victim of a grand conspiracy. He slowly turned toward Maya. But facts do not lie. He held up a photograph. The defendant was at the crime scene. He held up another document. Her fingerprints were found on the victim's property. He looked toward the jury. The evidence speaks for itself. When he finished, Evelyn calmly walked to the center of the courtroom. Ladies and gentlemen, facts do matter. She paused, but only real facts. She lifted two documents. The prosecution's own timeline proves Richard Lawson had already left the ballroom before my client entered to clean it. Quiet whispers spread across the room. Evelyn continued. The blood found on Ms. Brooks' raincoat does not belong to Richard Lawson. Several jurors looked at one another. It belongs to another injured man she tried to save. Martin Cole quickly stood. Objection. On what grounds? The judge asked. There is no witness confirming this story. Evelyn remained calm. There is now. The courtroom became silent. Evelyn looked toward the courtroom doors. Your Honor, the defense calls its final witness. The judge nodded. Bring in the witness. The heavy wooden doors opened. Every head turned. A tall Korean man dressed in a black suit entered the courtroom. His steps were slow and steady. Behind him walked Daniel Choi. Several other men in dark suits quietly took seats near the back. A wave of whispers spread through the gallery. Who is he? I've seen him before. That's calm. Martin Cole's face turned pale. Detective Harris looked at the stranger with surprise. Maya stared at him, trying to remember where she had seen those eyes. The judge adjusted his glasses. Please state your name for the record. The man stood at the witness stand. My name is Kong Min-jae. The courtroom fell completely silent. Even the reporters stopped writing. Evelyn spoke gently. Mr. Kong, do you know the defendant? He turned toward Maya. Yes. Maya looked confused. We've never met. A faint smile crossed Kang's face. You met me on the rainiest night of your life. Maya's eyes slowly widened. The alley. Yes. You. I was the man lying on the ground. A gasp swept across the courtroom. Maya covered her mouth with both hands. You survived because you refused to leave me. Kong looked toward the judge. Ms. Brooks found me after I was attacked. She called for medical help. She used her own coat to stop the bleeding. He pointed toward Daniel Choi. My chief of security arrived minutes later. Daniel stepped forward. I witnessed everything. Evelyn submitted several photographs. Your Honor, these were taken by Mr. Kang's security team that night. The judge carefully examined them. One photograph showed Maya kneeling beside the wounded man. Another showed paramedics lifting him into the ambulance. Another clearly showed Maya pressing her raincoat against his wound. Detective Harris slowly stood. Those photographs explain the unidentified blood. They do, Evelyn replied. Martin Cole tried to interrupt. Your Honor. The judge raised his hand. You'll have your turn. Kong continued. My security team also began an independent investigation after learning Ms. Brooks had been arrested. Daniel opened a briefcase and removed several folders. We discovered deleted security recordings. The courtroom became restless. We recovered financial records showing large payments made to 2 witnesses before they testified. Another folder landed on the evidence table. We also traced several phone calls between Richard Lawson and individuals connected to an illegal money laundering operation. Martin Cole's breathing became uneven. Daniel placed one final document before the judge, and these bank transfers were made to an account controlled by prosecutor Martin Cole. The courtroom exploded with shocked voices. Order! The judge shouted, striking the gavel repeatedly. Order! Martin Cole jumped to his feet. Those records are fake. Detective Harris slowly walked toward the evidence table. He examined the documents one by one. Then he looked directly at Cole. I know these account numbers. Cole's face lost all color. Harris took a slow breath. I've seen them before. He turned toward the judge. Your Honor, I believe this court has been presented with evidence of a conspiracy. The room fell silent once again. For the first time since her arrest, Maya felt the weight on her shoulders begin to lift. The truth, buried beneath weeks of lies, was finally coming into the light. But the greatest shock of all was still waiting just outside the courtroom doors. The courtroom doors burst open once again. This time, uniformed officers walked in with determined faces. Their leaders stepped toward the judge. Your Honor, we have received authorization to act on the new evidence presented before this court. The judge nodded. Proceed. The lead officer turned toward Martin Cole. Mr. Cole, please step away from the prosecution table. Cole's face turned pale. This is outrageous. No, sir. The officer held up a pair of handcuffs. You are under arrest on suspicion of obstruction of justice, evidence tampering, bribery, and conspiracy. Gasps filled the courtroom. Reporters rushed toward the front, trying to capture every second. Cole took one step backward. You can't do this. Detective Harris slowly approached him. I wish I didn't have to. Cole looked desperately around the courtroom. You don't understand. Harris answered quietly. Understand now. 2 officers placed handcuffs around Cole's wrists. As they led him away, he suddenly shouted, I wasn't the one who planned it. Richard Lawson was going to expose everyone. They said Maya Brooks was the perfect person to blame because nobody would believe her. The courtroom became silent. Those words were all anyone needed to hear. Another officer entered carrying a phone. Your Honor, officers have arrested 2 business partners connected to Mr. Lawson. They attempted to leave the city less than an hour ago. The judge slowly removed his glasses. This has become one of the most disturbing cases this court has ever seen. He looked toward Maya. Ms. Brooks, please stand. Maya rose slowly. Her knees felt weak. The judge's voice softened. Based on the evidence now before this court, this case against you is dismissed immediately. Maya could not move. She simply stared at him. The judge smiled gently. You are a free woman. Tears rolled down Maya's face. She covered her mouth as months of fear, loneliness, and heartbreak finally poured out. Denise jumped from her seat in the gallery. I told them. She hurried across the courtroom and wrapped Maya in a tight hug. I told them you were innocent. Maya cried against her friend's shoulder. Thank you for never giving up on me. Evelyn walked over with tears in her own eyes. I've defended people for 30 years. She smiled, but today reminded me why I became a lawyer. Detective Harris approached Maya next. He lowered his head. I owe you an apology. You were only doing your job. I should have listened sooner. Maya gently smiled. You listened when it mattered. Harris nodded. I promise you something. What is it? I'll spend the rest of my career making sure this never happens again. As the courtroom slowly emptied, Maya noticed Kong, Min-jae, standing quietly near one of the windows. For the first time since the trial began, they were alone. She walked toward him. I finally get to thank you. Kong smiled. You already thanked me 3 weeks ago. I didn't even know your name. You didn't need to. Maya looked down for a moment. Almost walked past that alley. But you didn't. I was afraid. So was I. She laughed softly through her tears. I kept wondering why someone like you would risk so much for someone like me. Kong looked directly into her eyes. When I was lying in that alley, I had money. He paused. I had power. He shook his head, but none of it could save me. What saved you? You. Maya's eyes filled with tears again. You saw a wounded stranger. Kong continued. You never asked if I was rich. You never asked where I came from. You never asked what I could give you. You simply chose kindness. He smiled warmly. People like that are rare. Maya lowered her eyes. My mother always told me that kindness is never wasted. She was right. Daniel Choi walked over quietly. The cars are ready, sir. Kong nodded before turning back to Maya. I have one more question. She smiled. What is it? When this is all over. He hesitated for the first time. Would you allow me to buy you dinner? Maya laughed. After everything they had lived through, the question felt wonderfully ordinary. I'd like that, but only if we're eating somewhere that serves good homemade food. Kong laughed for the first time. I know exactly the place. 6 months later, the city looked very different. Martin Cole and the business partners who had arranged Richard Lawson's murder were standing trial. Detective Harris had become one of the lead investigators in a major anti-corruption unit. Evelyn Grant received a community award for her work defending innocent people. Denise was promoted to housekeeping manager at the Grand Crescent Hotel after Victor Lane resigned during the investigation. As for Maya, she no longer lived in the tiny apartment where every month had been a struggle. She had accepted a position leading a charitable foundation funded by Kang's company. The foundation helped people who had been wrongly accused, people who had nowhere to turn, and families who could not afford legal help. Every visitor who entered the building was welcomed with respect. Nobody was judged by their appearance. Nobody was ignored because they were poor. One afternoon, Maya stood beside a large window overlooking the city. Kong joined her. Do you ever think about that rainy night? He asked. She smiled. Every day. What do you remember most? She looked toward the busy streets below. I remember thinking that helping one stranger probably wouldn't change the world. She turned to him. I was wrong. Kong smiled. No, you changed one life. He gently looked around the busy foundation filled with people receiving help. And one life changed many others. Maya nodded. Kindness had carried her through pain. Truth had finally defeated lies. And the woman who once stood alone in a courtroom with no one beside her would never stand alone again. Thank you for staying with us until the very end of this story. If this journey touched your heart, please subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with someone who believes that kindness still matters. Your support helps us continue bringing you powerful stories of hope, courage, justice, and second chances. Until next time, thank you for watching.